Thank you for your interest. Although we were impressed with your experience, we have received a large number of resumes. Unfortunately, you have qualified and we've decided to move forward with other candidates. We feel there isn't the perfect match applying for more roles.
Sometimes it be like that, but
270 applications later, I did it. I landed my first software engineering internship at a unicorn. If you ask me how I did it, I honestly think I just got really lucky, but there's definitely a bit more to it. So it all started in August 2020 when I had a chat with Jack about how he got his internship at Microsoft as a first year. And after that, I just looked up summer 2021 internships, and apparently a lot of companies already started recruiting back in August, which was like a year in advance. But I just started applying, applied through like company career pages, through LinkedIn. And then from August to January, I applied to about 200 internships. And I got rejected or ghosted by literally every single company. But in between, some of them would send me like hacker ranks or code signals, which are these online assessments that they use to filter out candidates. But I completely failed all of them and got rejected after. So I didn't even get a single interview out of those 200 applications, and I was completely crushed, really disappointed. I kind of just wanted to give up. Like, why was I wasting so much energy applying to these companies just for them to reject or ghost me? So I don't know, I just kind of wanted to give up. So by mid-January, Waterloo's job board called WaterlooWorks opened up for spring co-ops, and I knew that I really had to step up my game after 200 rejections. So what I did was I got a bunch of upper years to review my resume and then made some improvements and then started applying. Now, I want to note that when applying through WaterlooWorks, you have to submit your grade report, and I don't know if employers really care about this. I don't think they had a significant impact on my application, so I'm not really going to talk about them in this video, but I'll be focusing more on my resume. So I used a standard LaTeX template for my resume. It just had 6 main sections, like the header, skills, experience, projects, awards, and education in that order. So because this is my first internship or my first co-op, I didn't have any relevant work experience really. But in my experience section, I still talked about co-founding WaveChat, which is this platform that connects first-year university students. You can check that video out right here if you're interested. And I also talked about leading a youth organization and how we organized a hackathon. And I was also a front-end developer at this small company during the summer of 2019. But I honestly didn't do anything really significant and wouldn't even consider that to be my first internship at all. Moving on to projects, so I just had 2 side projects on my resume. One of them was this web app to track how busy your nearby grocery stores are, and the other one was a job hunting automation tool. And if you're interested, you can check out demo videos that I have up here. In the award section, I just had a couple hackathon wins, and then education section was just my school and programs, so Waterloo and computer science. So moving back to WaterlooWorks, there were 2 cycles within the first round that you could apply to jobs. In the first cycle, you could apply to 50 jobs, second cycle, an additional 50 jobs. So I applied to 50 in the first and then 20 in the second, so 70 in total. Most of the jobs that I applied to were like software developer, software engineering roles, with like a few QA, quality assurance, or like software testing roles. To be honest, I don't think I was qualified for a lot of the jobs that I applied for, especially the job that I actually ended up getting an offer for. So this is just like a tip, even if you don't have all the required skills or you don't feel qualified for a job, just shoot your shot. You never know, you might get lucky like I did. So yeah, just don't be afraid to apply to jobs that you aren't fully qualified for. Now, if you're a Waterloo student and you're applying through WaterlooWorks, you'll know that they tell you how many people apply to each job. And I think you shouldn't be intimidated by that number, because I got an interview for a job that had like 700 candidates for 2 spots, but I got rejected by many companies with far fewer applications for even more positions. So just ignore that number. After I applied, I interviewed for 2 startups, 2 mid-sized companies, and 1 unicorn. So in terms of how I prepared for these interviews, basically I started preparing a few months in advance. And so by the time I had my interview, I'd already done 300 LeetCode questions. I read Cracking the Coding interview twice, and I did all the questions on Algo Expert. I'm kidding. Basically what I actually did was I did like 10 LeetCode problems, like mostly easy questions and a couple medium questions. And I also reviewed some React concepts because I was applying for a front-end role too. and I did 2 mock interviews with upper years, which really helped and gave me a sense of what technical interviews would be like. Now you're probably thinking that that's not a lot of preparation, and it's definitely not. I was really just hoping that companies wouldn't ask very difficult questions, and it kind of worked out in the end. Most of my interviews went pretty well, especially my first one, which was for the unicorn, and this was like my first real technical interview ever, so I was honestly really nervous and wasn't really sure what to expect. So during that interview, I was given a problem that was probably equivalent to like a LeetCode Easy. I spent the first 10 minutes trying to understand the problem, asking clarification questions, and coming up with my initial approach. After I explained my approach to the interviewer, I was like, wait, this approach is really slow and inefficient. So I had to think about optimization, and what I did was I thought back to the section in Cracking the Coding interview where they mentioned the BUD approach, which is bottlenecks, unnecessary work, and duplicated work, and these are the sort of things that you can look at when you're trying to optimize your solution. So I realized that my solution had some unnecessary computations in it, and so I thought back to what I said in my last video. Just use a hash map. So I was like, great, I'll use a hash map. But there was one problem. The interview was in JavaScript, and I didn't know how hash maps worked in JavaScript. So I basically had to ask my interviewer, how do hash maps work in JavaScript? And this sort of leads to a tip, which is, don't be afraid to ask for help during the interview. Oftentimes the interviewer will let you check documentation, or they'll help guide you towards the right direction. Now this sort of leads into another tip, which is to make sure you're communicating your entire thought process throughout the interview. Because not only does it show the interviewer how you think and how you solve problems, but if you get stuck or you need help or something, it makes it a lot easier for the interviewer to guide you in the right direction. So after I coded up my solution, I wrote some test cases, and when I ran the code, not all of them actually passed. So I had to go back through my code, explain why these bugs were happening, and then I fixed it, ran the tests again, and then it passed. So that was basically the interview, and I thought it went pretty well, but like I said in one of my previous videos,
This is actually a pro tip. If you have low expectations, so if you think you're going to get rejected, then if you get in, you'll be super happy. But if you get rejected, you'll already be prepared to handle the rejection.
So I was keeping my expectations really low, not expecting anything. But then the next day, I got an email from a recruiter, and they wanted to schedule a call with me to talk about my interview. My initial thought was, oh, she just wants to get some feedback on how the interview went, and that way they can improve their interview process or something. And then after she asked me that, I'm gonna get rejected. And I guess that was partly true, because at the beginning of the phone call, we were just talking about how my interview went, what I thought about it. And then after she got some feedback from me, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get rejected now. And then she hit me with the offer, and I was like, what? I was shocked. It was completely unexpected, and I was really surprised. So again, I think I just got really lucky. I don't really know how I got the job, but I'm super grateful to get the opportunity to work at the company and work on some cool things this summer. Now I want to mention that my interview didn't go perfectly, right? Not all my test cases passed at first. I had to ask for help with hash maps and JavaScript, but I still ended up getting the offer. So I guess it just goes to show that you don't need to perform perfectly on the interview to get the offer. Whether you're currently looking for your first internship or you will be doing so soon, I really hope that this video provided some insight into what it's like applying for software engineering internships, and I guess a bit about how WaterlooWorks works. Yeah. And best of luck. It's definitely not easy finding your first internship, let alone during a pandemic, and I think I just got really lucky. So don't give up, keep applying, and eventually you'll land that internship. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one.
Got me thinking I might be better on my own. I hate you blowing up my phone. I wish I